Welcome to the season 19 of the Productized Podcast. My name is Pedro Ganço and I'll be your host today. This season we're all about create change together with Productized 2025, where we explore how product leaders, innovators, and change makers can drive real lasting impact across teams, industries, and communities. Today I'm super thrilled to have Rich Mironov with us. Welcome, Rich.
Thanks
How are you
so
feeling
much,
today?
Pedro. I'm doing great. And you?
Really good and excited for this conversation. I only had like a few questions prepared, but it's one of these times that we have these kind of guests on the podcast that I feel that you can just expand yourself because you have 40 years of career, right?
That's right. I've been doing product management since the late 1980s, in case anybody thought it was a new thing.
I started briefly 10 years ago, and here in Portugal, people will still say, what is product management? What is not product management? So we are still trying to figure it out.
So the secret is people in Silicon Valley are asking that very same question. They've been asking me that question for 40 years, and they still don't get the answer.
And still today, they get to ask you what we do. How would you actually define what to do? Because it's a complicated disease, right?
It is, and mostly the folks who ask that question or who are forced to ask that question aren't interested in the details of how we do our jobs or processes or product led this or operating system that. They're looking for the basics, and for me, the couple of basics. One is we're the people with the long-term commitment to the folks who buy and use our products.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of the folks within the company who want to make short-term choices, right? And the other is our most important job isn't to make things arrive faster. It's to make more of the right things arrive. So engineering's in charge of building stuff, and if they can build faster, that's great. But the vast majority of products fail, and most features fail. And so if we think about, I call it product waste, which is we built a thing, we shipped a thing, and nobody cares, and it didn't make money, and the users aren't using it. Product managers are the people who are supposed to reduce the amount of product waste by making good choices about what we're going to build.
I love that.
And then letting the team build it because they're better at it than we are. But there's just so much useless crap that gets shipped every day, and we product managers are supposed to hold the line against bad ideas and features that users are going to hate and stuff that's bad for our customers.
You're already dropping takeaways in the first minute. Product is not about making it faster. That's actually a misconception. But for people that may be living under a rock, who is Rich Mironov? I really didn't want to skip your intro because you have 40 years of products, interim CPO positions, a lot of startups, a lot of successes, a lot of failures. Do you want to give us a brief who is Rich?
Sure, the short version. So my career mostly was in Silicon Valley. I did 6 startups, one as a CEO, and 4 of those 6 startups we refer to as good life lessons and character building, because nothing else useful came out of it, utter failure. I've been an independent, hung out my shingle as a product manager, product leader in 2001. So you can count on your fingers, that's been a while. And that included 15 interim head of product, chief product officer jobs. So parachuting into companies where they forgot to have product, or they forgot to have someone running product, or the last 3 people quit and they don't know why, or they fired the last 3 people and they don't know why. A lot of we called it smoke jumping, right? You're the forest fire is raging and you're parachuting behind the fire to put the fire out. So again, builds a lot of character. All those learnings. Been blogging since 2002. For anybody who's paying attention, there were blogs in 2002, and these days
it's still online, right? Mironov.com.
Well, yeah, it is. There's a new post almost every month, so you can do 12 times 25 and figure out how many posts I have up there. And these days, what I'm doing mostly is I'm doing one-on-one coaching for chief product officers and VPs of product at software companies. So trying to share the hard lessons that I earned along the way so that not everybody has to learn it that hard.
All those badges made with blood that you carry with you. And most recently, Rich, you opted to swap the Silicon Valley for sunny Lisbon, Cascais, Portugal.
Yeah, I left the United States. I've moved to Portugal about 4 months ago, living in the suburbs of Lisbon. I love it here. And we were just talking. There's a Portuguese word I learned called humilde,
Mm-hmm.
which in English it's humble. And I just feel so humble and appreciative that Portugal, that the Portuguese community and people have welcomed us and let us come here to this beautiful place.
And I've been noticing you involved a lot with the product communities here in Lisbon. And Rich, let me know, what is the thing that you miss the most now that you're not in the US? What you miss the most from Silicon Valley that you don't have in here?
I think I miss the people. I mean, there's so many folks I've worked with and been friends with over the decades, and particularly on the West Coast, I'm 8 hours away from them. So there's a lot of late afternoon, evening Zooms from here with folks in the morning there. I think of what we do as so much about the people as opposed to the places.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure I miss a lot about the U.S. as the U.S., but everybody there is so wonderful.
And what do you like the most now that you changed for Lisbon?
It's so calm here, and the people are nice, and the pace is a little slower. I think I'm trying to figure out how to gear down from the U.S. West Coast pace and language speed and aggressive step by step to a more Portuguese sense of maybe we don't have to get everything done right now today.
I get that feeling when I have CEOs for companies I work for that they visit US. Whenever they came with an anxiety level times 10. Like, we need to go faster. We need to do much more things than we're currently doing.
That's right. We need to see everything today. I'm only on the ground for 2 days. So what 15 most important things can we look at today?
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And that's actually a good comeback to the takeaway that you just said before, that product managers are not here to make things faster. That's a very common misconception. I've been in this role for a while, and most often I see managers wanting to use product managers to make just the team
That's right.
busy and working and faster.
And I get calls, whatever calls means these days. I get calls all the time from CEOs who want me to come in and help their engineering teams ship stuff faster. And I have lots of friends who are interim or consulting CTOs and VPs of engineering who may work on that problem. But fundamentally, I don't think that's usually the mistake or the problem that really needs fixing. So when we open up the engineering teams, we almost always find that the people are busy, that they've got good tools, but that organizational issues get in their way, and building the wrong thing gets in their way, and wrong reward systems get in their way. It's almost never about improving the speed of coding. We'll get to AI later, but I think there's just a lot of misconceptions about what it takes to build great products, and typing faster in general isn't the answer.
Does it make you a book if you just type faster words?
That's right.
I would say
inspired, educational,
overwhelming, very practical,
challenging,
thought-provoking,
meaningful,
enthusiastic,
nice people,
innovation, and fun.
Product growth mindset.
new connections.
Join us at the coolest product management environment this October in Lisbon.
And when you get those calls from the C executive suite, what are the challenge they bring to you? Do you see any patterns when you come to help big organizations in building products? What are the common patterns you see?
There's a couple. I think one is that, and I should say I'm mostly a B2B enterprise guy, not a consumer guy. And B2B enterprise has the feature, maybe not the benefit, it has the feature that you have a small number of really large deals every quarter, and that the buyer is not the user, but that the buyer has a long shopping list of things, demands, requirements, most of which don't make any sense or won't matter. And so we have these sales teams that they either close the deal or they get fired this quarter, and they have a list of things that the customer has demanded, most of which we shouldn't build. And so in the B2B enterprise space, there's a tremendous amount of politics and pushing and pulling and who gets to decide about what we're going to build because every customer is holding us hostage on a few things, right? So that's one. And of course, from the sales point of view, the answer is that if we could just build everything faster, we could give all of the customers everything they wanted. Turns out that leads to terrible products and unhappy customers, but from a short-term sales point of view, it makes perfect sense. The other thing I see over and over again is I see frameworks and processes being dropped in from the outside. So big company hires huge accounting firm, former accounting consulting firm, which knows nothing about building commercial products. And they have some
Agile frameworks and processes, they just spit.
They're doing SAFe or they're doing this or that. And it's got 16 kinds of job descriptions and it's got 51 committees and 100 workflows. And none of it addresses any of the real issues, but it creates this theater of improvement where everybody's unhappy and nobody knows what their job is anymore. But we've taken this 100-page document and we're trying to jam it down the throats of all the folks who actually knew how to do their jobs. I feel the same way often about the product operating system discussion, right? It's not where the problems are. So the CEOs are coming to me saying, well, I have this perfect 100-step document. I need your help making everybody participate in the way they're supposed to, which is a failure. And if we could just get things done 3 times as fast, our sales teams couldn't have everything they wanted.
It turns out vomiting frameworks doesn't solve any real issue.
They're useful, but they're useful for the first 20%, not the last 80%. And I think by definition, almost all of them have to be logically equivalent because whichever one we use, we're still going to ship product.
Yeah. The last one I witnessed, it was a sales-led company at work for, and there was this moment, let's implement SAFe, dropping frameworks, but keeping exactly this before, plus adding the confusion of now I don't know what I need to do.
That's right. And it kind of assumes that we have not very smart people in the design and engineering and product groups who just need to be told what their job is and it'll all be better. And with 1 or 2 exceptions over the last 4 decades, I've never found that to be true.
Let's go dive deeper a little bit into it, because I still struggle with this challenge, which is big B2B companies that are strongly influenced by sales. It's really hard sometimes to have these conversations towards product orientation, and there's this lack of understanding. Polls, because when you have a deal like, hey, here's 1 million contract. If we do this and that, how can we go out of these conversations?
Sure. And I obviously there's learning on both sides, but I observe that the sales team is completely not interested in learning how we do our jobs or what our processes are or how our backlogs work or what Agile is. So when we as product and engineering folks are trying to educate the sales team, we're just wasting their time and getting them frustrated, right? It's not what they care about. Right? And so the idea that we're going to educate them, we're going to sit them down, we're going to walk through our 27-step process.
It's a lost battle already.
It's not only a lost battle, but it's a waste of everybody's time. Right? There's a picture I throw up in some of my talks where it's a guy wearing all his golf outfits. He's got a golf shirt and a golf hat. He's got a bottle of beer in his hand. And I asked the audience, have you ever been stuck at a cocktail party with somebody who insisted on spending an hour telling you about golf or Dungeons and Dragons or U.S. politics, whatever it is, when you're completely not interested, right? I see that when we as product folks try to...
We are that guy.
We are that guy. We are, and we're doing it out of the goodness of our hearts because we think we're smarter and we don't understand what's happening, right? So I back off from that and I say that at a sales-led company, the thing we have to do, and it comes back to one of the themes for me, is we have to stop talking about development processes because none of the decision makers care. What we have to do is we have to start talking the language of money, where we convert the things we're doing, because they're the right things mostly, into the revenue that the company's going to get if we do those things, or the cost savings they're going to get if we do those things. And if those things we're doing are bigger in money terms than what this particular deal is going to cost us or make us, then we get to win the argument not because we're smarter, not because we have roadmaps, not because we care about architecture, but because, for instance,
We want to contribute to some quota of the sales department.
let me give you a few examples. And the important thing here is that we end the sentence with money. Okay? So, for instance, we might say, we're doing this whole back-end re-architecture to get our reporting engine to go faster. Notice there's no money.
So
right? So that right now we can't add any more customers because our reporting engine's maxed out, and the new customers can't get the reports they're paying for, so we can't sign up new customers. And our goal next year is to sign up 25 million in new customers. So either we do this reporting acceleration work so we can add next year's 25 million in customers,
or leaving money on the table.
or we're leaving money on the table and we all lose our jobs, right? Or for instance, our design team has some brilliant ideas for how to improve our sign-up flow and activation flow for our consumer music service. Notice you didn't hear money, right? Until we say, our best guess is that we could increase our sign-up rate by 6 or 8 or 10%. And every percent we increase that is $15 million on the top line of the company. So if our guess is that we can maybe find 6% improvement, that's $90 million. And by the way, the two design and engineering teams only cost us $1.5 million a year.
I don't need to know the details. I don't care about the technicalities. You just shared.
But if I lay out a 5x or a 20x or a 40x return, everyone in the room says yes, and no one cares what the details are, right? So I think to sort of summarize, it falls back on us as product champions, as product leaders, to figure out how to describe the benefits that we're doing to the rest of the company instead of the features.
Which is valid for research, for technical depth, for new features.
Technical, that's hard, but we have to try, right? Research is hard until we point to some of the things we learned that turned into a lot of money, a lot of products, and a lot of success, or conversely, some real failures where we rushed something to market and no one wanted it. And we had 6 teams, we spent a year, that's 7 million euros, right? We spent 7 million euros building a product that didn't win, that didn't work, that didn't make money because we saved 6 weeks of research, right? We're talking in the language of investments here because honestly, again, in the B2B enterprise executive suite, it's really, in my view, the only language that matters.
They can understand.
That they care about.
They care.
And as a product leader, if I think I'm the smartest person in the room and I belittle everybody and make them feel stupid and show them 15 pages of roadmaps which don't answer their question, well, they either laugh at me, they fire at me, or they don't, or they ignore all my recommendations and approve something else. So as a product leader, I must be ready to do my job, which is to understand the executive team and how it works.
I love this translation to money talk. There's still a conflict that I don't know how to really solve, which is incentives. If I'm a sales guy, I really have incentives to sell. My incentive is like my paycheck will rise if this contract is signed. I don't care what I say. I don't care what we'll do. I don't care the long-term impact on my product. I care that this is a sales, is good for the company, is good for my commission. This is the incentive most organizations have in place. As in product managers, they usually don't have commissions on it. They just care about making something that business likes and users want. So how do you see this conflict in organizational processes? Because they don't really fit.
They don't fit. And you exactly identified the issue, which is that the incentive plan for the sales reps is encouraging them to do something bad for the company, right? So if as a product leader, I understand that, I look around the table and the first person I pull aside is, let's say, the chief financial officer, the CFO. And we have a long talk about how the compensation plan for sales is leading to bad results for the company and us losing money because we're signing contracts for things we don't have. We have unhappy customers who churn, and we can't scale up our business because everything's a special case, right? And the CFO often has approval or maybe even reject authority on the sales compensation plan. So if we unpack that, if we remember, people do what we pay them to do, not what we want them to do, right? So let's think about comp plans. Let's imagine that everybody on the sales force gets a 20% extra bonus for selling exactly what the product does today with no extra requirements, right? They get 50% decrease the first time they sell something that's not in the product, and the second time they're fired.
That's a good incentive.
Right? Suddenly, what you discover is that salespeople who understand all this are behaving differently, or we spread out the commissions so that they only get half on renewal. Nobody wants to do this because there's accounting issues and you might lose your salespeople. But if we paid them on renewals as much as we paid them on for sign up, there's a reason for them to care if the customers are happy, right? I mean, there's lots of ways to re-architect the compensation plan for sales. Having a product manager yell at the salespeople because they're not doing what he or she wants, that's not a fix to the problem.
All of this, I hope some salespeople or C-suite is listening to us.
Sure.
Have an incentive to not sell what we don't have. And
sure. And let me say something important here. I love salespeople, and I've never been a good salesperson. I would fail as a salesperson. And in order to make money and have the company live, we must have a sales team that's really good. That said, if we pay them to do the things that force the company to fail, then we're all at fault.
you know, this is exactly my frustration, because what I see is that we don't have a product if no one is buying it. In sales are usually the best guys. We are sometimes a bit too naive, like building the right stuff and make it pretty, UX and whatever. And sales are super focused and they make the engine move, pay salaries, increase teams. So it's really frustrating because I do see a lot of value in sales team, but I know these incentives in place in the long term will shoot ourselves in the foot.
Good. Let me give you one other really quick example. You're at a company and they have one major product and it's selling really well, and everyone on the sales team is making their quota and they're getting to President's Club and they get to fly to Fiji for 3 days and whatever, right? And we introduce a second product and it doesn't sell at all. Zero. And we on the product side are trying to figure out what features we're missing. And then we go take a couple of salespeople out to lunch or buy them drinks. And here's what we learn. Everyone on the sales team can make their number, can hit their quota selling the things they already know, and no one's interested in learning about the new thing. And no matter what we build, it's going to fail. So now we go back to the incentive plan and we say, okay, you can't make quota unless you sell at least one unit of the new product. Suddenly, everybody's calling us for help and we need the deck and will you give us the demo, because the compensation system drives behavior in a way that we as product folks just don't understand.
Totally right. And how do you see, because I'm super incentivized in making my product grow, but without really talking to the customer. I don't care individually to the customer, I care like segments and whole population. So I have this issue, which is if I get to sell like 20% more or something, I'm super happy with it. But how will this cascade to success of the sales team? Just because I improve some UX, some sign-up flow, and then I get more increased revenue, I don't get a commission out of it. I don't need it, to be honest, to drive my motivation. But how we can share this success with the sales so that
you already gave me the answer, which is you made some changes to the product and we sold 20% more. Now, if I'm on the sales team, I got 20% more commission. I made 20% more money. But I assumed it was because I was a really much smarter, better sales rep than everybody else, until the product folks show me what they did that caused me to get 20% more money. Now, I don't really care about the details, but again, if we improved the sign-up flow, if we made it easier to renew, if we had better messaging, if we added a new feature, we've got to, I use the word merchandise, we've got to sell, we've got to promote to our own sales force and company that the things we're doing generate more happy customers and more money. And until we do that, the salespeople will ignore us because we're not important. It seems obvious, but nobody on the product side thinks about this.
Mm-hmm. No. We tend to think we do, and we air all these ads, but in the end, we are not really addressing the internal issues that we have inside departments. Totally right. And what do you see is the best organization? You start now. You failed a lot. You had success a lot. If you were to start from scratch, new startup, limited money, limited human capital, how would you design an organization that you feel is aligned in all these departments?
Yeah. The first thing to remember is that we don't collect any money until we've finished a product that we can collect money on and sell. And so in the very early days, hiring a sales and marketing team may not make sense until we have something that's close enough that we can show it to people and start to sign up beta customers. I like, in the very early stages, I like somebody on the sales side who's been scrappy, who's been in a few startups, and who's more compensated in stock than in money.
Mm-hmm.
Because what we need to do is not close two deals that are off in the corner and don't make any sense. We need to understand the segments. We need to understand the customers. So, if we think of a small engineering design product team and one really, really smart strategic marketing leader, because marketing is critically important, but not marketing campaigns,
Mm-hmm.
marketing strategy, marketing understanding, segmentation, pricing, right? And we probably need somebody on the support side, because as soon as we get our first beta customer, it's all going to be broken. It always is.
Mm-hmm.
So in the very earliest bare metal startup days, I'm thinking of, 5 or 6 people on the building side and 2 people on the go-to-market side.
Mm-hmm.
But as soon as we hit some traction, as soon as we hit the curve and people are buying, we're going to staff up on the sales and marketing and operations side so that we can sell a lot more of what we built. So by the time we get to 50 people, I expect 15 of them are building product engineering, design, DevOps, testing, QA, whatever, and 25 of them are marketing and selling.
Mm-hmm. Totally get it. And how do you see these dynamics changing now with the AI coming to place? Because if previously we as product managers were like, we need to make sure we're building the right things, so we don't want to rush to making solutions. We want to first understand the pains and problems, talk with clients, kind of some validation. What if development costs crash down to zero? We just have Replit and Lovable and solution that, okay, solution is done, and I actually witnessed developers building something faster than a designer pull up a Figma mockup. How this dynamic will change in discovery?
I worry a lot about that. In fact, I wrote a few thousand words on it a month or two ago. If we think about where the bottlenecks in the system are, so right now the bottleneck is building code, building fully architected product. Let's imagine that the cost of building product falls by 3 orders of magnitude. What we're going to have is 100,000 new products a day being launched, or 1 million new products a day being launched. And there's no one out there to pay any attention, right? So the bottleneck moves, first of all, on the product side. I believe real discovery is going to be the difference, because everyone's going to be able to duplicate anything I build that was any good in a week, right? So it's going to be really hard to maintain any kind of position in the market unless we are way ahead in the thinking, which is discovery, which is understanding, which is appreciation and intuition. By the way, I don't see most AI tools delivering any of that. They deliver the average, typical, generic answer, nothing interesting. And then the other one, if we imagine, for instance, that we can build prototypes 1,000 times faster, okay? So I'm going to generate 12 prototypes an hour. Who in the world is going to look? Right? We've moved the bottleneck from can we create enough prototypes to can we get enough people to actually look at them, try them, give us comments, decide what's good, right? Because they're not finished products, they're prototypes, and they don't work yet. Or even if they do, they may do the wrong things. So I see us really shifting from looking over the shoulder of our engineers, who, by the way, never needed us to do that, to real insight into the markets, real judgment about which things we're going to push for beta or prototype or to launch, and then lots of collaboration with sales and marketing, especially marketing, because we have to be able to tell the world why the world cares about our thing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not the code, that's the benefits, right? We're back to benefits. And the idea that we're going to ship a bunch of code and get rich, I think we're going to mostly prove that to be not true.
We're just in the beginning of our conversation, typing faster doesn't make a book.
Right.
We're just making more noise, much
That's
quicker.
Now, there will be some miracles that happen here. There always are, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there will be some real changes in how the world thinks. I absolutely believe it. But again, I don't really believe it's a throughput issue. I think it's an understanding and market analysis and insight challenge. And that as product folks, we're useless, by the way, if we don't bring that to the party. So if all we're doing is, telling folks to push code faster, well, then we are the first people to be replaced by a chatbot.
That's interesting view, because then the product management role need will not decrease. On the contrary, it will actually be more and more relevant if we...
Could be. I don't see anyone investing in more product management right now.
Yeah, me neither.
But
I see people stalling on the...
Yeah, I do see the opportunity to not invest less
Mm-hmm.
as the engineering team speeds up.
Mm-hmm. Totally right. This is actually interesting, because you mentioned before the bottleneck before was development. Probably in the future will be more attention. I love this takeaway, because this also connects with other great thinkers I follow, that they actually say probably in the future it will be more and more relevant to become a personal brand. You have your own audience, and you immediately can sell whatever you come up with.
I think we're there today. If you
It's
look
not
at
the
all the
future.
social media channels, it's very little content, and it's all about personalities and brand and headlines and who can spend the most to push the message hardest.
Mm-hmm.
We're already in an attention economy on the consumer side. Is it better?
It's different.
It's different. There's a lot of discussion that, at least in the UK, they're talking about taking mobile devices away from kids until they're 12 or 14 because it's so damaging to the kids. So, that's where we are.
Yeah, we need to understand the world is shifting towards these attention grabbers.
That's right. And we can now connect some AI chatbot or some AI public relations funnel up to the the big data source in the sky and flood the world with garbage and crap faster than anyone can read it.
The challenge is how to filter, and this is where personal brands probably will come into place.
And maybe we all get our own personal AI filter on the other side, and this is the competition from one to the other. But I see so much volume and I see so little value.
I totally second that. It's actually funny because just 2 days ago, not wanting to go into politics, but I was having this conversation in the family. Like, people were saying, no, this popular party that is rising in Portugal will never go to rule Portugal. They said they will definitely rule in Portugal. Just look at his social media, TikTok and Instagram, see how many followers he has, and sum all the rest. He's shy to comparison. So once you understand that this is an attention game, and whoever grabs the followers and the media and the attention, they will eventually rule the sales, what's going to be made.
And here's where I carefully don't connect any dots between my having left the United States for Portugal and anything you just said.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting. Neither good or bad, but totally different. Like, it's a different play. You may have the best product, you may have the best team, you may have the best everything, but if you don't capture now the attention with the surplus of noise and products being created out of nothing, probably the differentiator will be who gets to.
Right. I'm still a user. There's a desktop product called Quicken, which I use to keep my finances, and it's old and it runs on my Mac. But just imagine a world where anyone could make a Quicken clone in one day,
Mm-hmm.
and the world is full, or whatever your favorite product is, and the world is flooded with 100,000 equivalent products, most of which will die tomorrow because no one's going to support them. How do you live in a world where there's so many products that are all the same?
Mm-hmm. That's a wonderful thing for us product managers to think about. I'm really loving this conversation. We're going into philosophical mode here, but it's actually the challenge we have ahead of us. How to make our products still make sense in a world that is changing with all this noise. This connects with something else that I wanted to bring. Last year, I was hearing you at Productized conference, and you ended up the stage. You wrap up the conference with a very positive note. Like it was a talk you gave on finding joy in what we do. Do you still think it's valid today? Do you want to share with our audience today how can we find joy in doing product management?
I think it's more important than ever, and I think where I was going with that talk was we have to find the joy inside ourselves, in the work we do, in the things we deliver to our end users that are good, in the ways we move the world forward, because honestly, the world's never going to thank us for it, right? And so, if you need a lot of external validation and people telling you you're wonderful, product management may not be the best thing for you. Let me tell you a few of the things that bring me joy, because they're good examples. Again, I've been doing this a really long time. I've had the good fortune to work with a lot of folks, mentor a lot of people over the years. We all talk about paying it forward and pulling folks up the ladder behind us. Every once in a while, I get an email or a phone call or a WhatsApp from somebody who says, Rich, you may not remember, but 2 years or 8 years or 15 years ago, you sat down with me over lunch and you told me this thing, and it was really, really important to me, and let me tell you what it was, and it's been an important part of my career or my future or something, and I never got around to thanking you for it, right? For me, that is the day that, gosh, the rest of the month is made.
Everything
right?
makes sense.
Everything is made. And for me, it's almost identical to the problem of, or the opportunity of raising children, which is the things you do as a parent. You feed your kids and clothe your kids and bring them to school and take them to, football practice or ballet or whatever it is, or horseback riding or out in the country. You do everything you can to make them grow up to be big and strong. And
with negative ROI. Just give.
And some of them thank you for it. Mostly they don't. But as a parent, the joy you have is seeing your child grow up to be the thing they want to be, that they can be. And you're standing in the back of the room when your kid is on the stage playing the violin and everybody's listening. Nobody knows who you are. Nobody cares who you are. But it's your child who is doing the wonderful thing. And so as product managers, I think we have to channel that inner joy of collaboratively making something which is good, and seeing that it's good, even though nobody's going to know who we are or thank us for it.
I love that. I actually had to train product managers to replace me, to be on my place. And I did remember there was this one time that I actually had to say, our my reward is when I go home and to my wife and say, hey, now 80% of the revenue of the company is from a product we made from scratch. You go to a wife, to your partner, and you brag like internally, but because no one will.
That's right. You go home and say,
yeah, it was really good.
I just made this this change on the product, and 3% more people are signing up and 8% more people are being successful, and none of them know my name.
Yeah, exactly right. We are in the shadows on the backstage of it. And it actually influenced me on that day. And if there's one takeaway people listening to us can take, is to thank to someone who had a positive impact on you. This is of super, I don't even know what to say. The reward one can get from it is immense. You just recognizing someone from something they did before.
Yeah, I think
practice a few times, and that's
That was
Super
my
good.
challenge to the audience. I asked everybody to write down the name of somebody who had helped them or done a good thing.
Hmm.
And as soon as we were done, I asked them to send an email or a text and thank the person who they'd forgotten to thank over the years.
That's so powerful. So if you're listening to us right now, you can just pause, think about who you have to thank, and just send a message, because this is very, very powerful, and people need this, and we collectively need this kind of reward system between us, the product managers. Rich, I'm loving to talk with you. I can go on and on for hours, but is there anything that you wish I asked you today?
I think we hit the high points. The other thing I would say is that product management communities are really important. Product conferences are important. Meetups are important. It's lonely doing what we do. And when we get together with other product folks and designers and everybody else in our group and share what brings us joy and happiness, it makes us motivated, it makes us feel good. So one shouldn't sit by themselves and, hide. Get out, go to Productized, go to the meetups, get online, write, talk, whatever it is. I think we do best when we as product folks make ourselves part of a community.
You did preach what you say, because you really did start it long years ago, the first product camps that in US. Now you're moving to Portugal after 40 years career, and you're joining Product Weekend, Productized Conference. You're still involved in the community. So you really do preach what you say.
Thanks. Yeah, I threw the very first product camp in Silicon Valley in 2008. So who knew that was going to be a thing?
Mm-hmm. Now it's everywhere. In Portugal, we have these small but strong communities that are developing, but there's a lot of in Berlin as well, and UK. A lot of things going on in Europe as well. What do you see we lack in Europe now, with your perspective coming from US? What would you like to see more?
Actually, the thing I love that you lack here, or that we lack here in Europe, is so many decades of experience that we know that things don't work. Right? There's some optimism here. There's some freshness here. There's the willingness to try new stuff. Silicon Valley is often really stuck in its own history.
Mm-hmm.
And, we tried that 15 years ago, 40 years ago, it didn't work.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I just see a lot of vibrancy. I see a lot of energy here where folks are willing to learn. They're willing to talk. They're willing to listen and try things. That
without the burden of success that probably Silicon Valley CEOs have on their shoulders.
The other thing that I'm really enjoying here is it's less about who has $1 billion. Right? More of the technology billionaires are in a small piece of geography than the rest of the world together. Mm-hmm. And that's not my measure of success, partly because I'm not a billionaire. But here we're still doing the work because it's good, it's important, it's for people, and I find that very refreshing.
That's so good, and it really connects with the initial of podcast about being humble. Just to make us humble, so that people know that even someone like Rich Mironov can fail. Do you want to share with us some of the story of failure that taught you some good lessons before?
Oh, sure. My third startup, I was the founding CEO of a software startup, and we were going to build something really wonderful and important in the mobile gaming space. It was 2001, so we were about 10 years too early. Mm-hmm. Turns out, among other things, nobody could use what we intended to build. And we set, I would say, the land speed record for the time between when we raised our first dollar of angel money and when we closed the company. It was like 10 months. And I was the CEO. And the investors called me, each of them called me maybe once a week to see how sales were going, of which there were none. Mm-hmm. And one of the things I learned, what a deep lesson for me, I picked up all of the bad behaviors and bad habits of CEOs at companies that are not making their numbers. I shouted, I yelled, I made promises for things we didn't have. I did all the things I thought CEOs were stupid to do.
But it's hard to go out of it, right? Because once you're in it, on the shoes,
that's
you
right.
really have all the...
That's right. And so a fast failure, I'm glad it was fast. But the thing I took away from it, the thing that the real lesson for me was CEOs are not evil. CEOs are not stupid. CEOs are in a particular chair where the incentives and the structures drive behaviors. And so I've been able to work with CEOs over the years now without having to be the smartest person in the room, without having to think that they're foolish, without having to talk down to them, because I've had the good or bad fortune to fail utterly and completely as a CEO and to be humbled and to sit in the corner and rock myself to sleep and cry for a few months afterwards, because
It's a tough place. It's a tough
it's a
place.
very tough place. It's a very dark place. But then we get up, we dust ourselves off, and we see what
Mhm. I do remember having this conversation with the executive of mine. I was having like this retrospective company. The team members complained to me. I complained to him, and I was like, that was this time I stopped. To whom do you complain to? And I never will forget his answer. Is like the higher you go in some hierarchy, the lonelier it gets.
That's right.
So you get less people to talk to.
There's no one for the CEO to complain to, and you're supposed to put a brave face and positive energy on everything when it's all falling apart.
Mhm.
And I found it soul crushing, and I promised never to do it again. But I learned.
Yeah, but this is, when you look back, this is often also the places where we learn the most, that teaches the tougher lessons that we cannot read on a book.
Indeed.
That's a wrap for today's episode, Rich. I really, really enjoyed this conversation. We went really deep down in some of the core concepts of what it takes to be a human, a product manager, dealing with sales. A lot of takeaways I take myself out of this conversation. And for people that are still deciding if they should buy or not a ticket for Productized Conference 2025, last year you talked about the joy of doing a product management role. What are you going to bring us this coming year, the 2025? Just a sneak peek.
Sure. Well, this year I'm in the middle of the agenda, so I'm going to be talking about the language of money.
Mhm.
And I have a workshop. I have an entire workshop on how, as a product leader, you can deal with the folks in the executive suite and get things done in the language of money and executives in business, instead of being all superior about knowing more technology.
I can stress how important that is. So if anyone is still deciding, I think they should definitely get a ticket just to go to your workshop and see what's coming up. Rich, thank you so much. Beside Mironov.com, how can people find you?
That's my website. I'm also on Substack. I also have a newsletter version. I'm really easy to find on LinkedIn. Hint, my last name is my domain name is my email address. So,
Makes everything easy.
and if they don't find me that way, I will be giving away books and meeting people at Productized again this year in Lisbon, which is my new home, and I'm so excited to be there.
I'm super excited to have you, and also humbled to have the chance to talk with you with all this wisdom of yours that you have packed in just small sentences. That's amazing. Thank you so much, Rich, again. And for everyone tuning in, don't forget to follow Productize on LinkedIn, subscribe to the podcast, and see you in the next episode. Thank you.